What's going on, everybody? It is I, Tony, and welcome to more episodes of TTBurger Game Reviews. Inching closer to that 300th episode here, episode 290, part 1 of 2 parts. Today we're going to talk about some video games based on the show franchise and movie franchise, Mission Impossible. Now, we all know Mission Impossible started off as a TV series back in the 1960s. That starred Peter Graves as Jim Phelps, a part of the IMF, which is the Impossible Mission Force. And I didn't really see the show because I wasn't born around the time the show was out and everything. But I know the show was very successful, spawning at least 7 seasons. And then we got the movies here, which is what people in my generation know of Mission Impossible, starring Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. And I don't want to spoil it, so we already know about the movie one anyway. But you know, when it comes to success with TV series and movies, lands them into the video games. And there were a lot of video games based on Mission Impossible, starting on the MS-DOS, the NES. We got some on the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2 and stuff and more. We're going to be looking at only at 2 of them today. We're going to be looking at Mission Impossible, Expecting Impossible on the PlayStation, first on the Nintendo 64, then Mission Impossible Operation Surma for the PlayStation 2, which is also on the Xbox, Nintendo GameCube, and more. Now we're gonna talk about here. Let's get started with looking at Mission Impossible, or Mission Impossible Expecting Impossible. First on the Nintendo 64 in August 14th, 1998, and then November 18th, 1999, right before the millennium started. Looking at the PlayStation version, it's the only version I have. Now I will say I played both versions, the Nintendo 64 version and the PlayStation version. And I will say that, my god, this game is broken and busted in so many ways. The Nintendo 64 version is actually worse than the PlayStation version because of many issues I'll talk about later. The PlayStation version fixes a lot of the issues, but in the end result is a broken mess all around. I didn't think it was possible for this to even be this way, but oh lord, I'm about to tell you all here. It doesn't matter which version you get because they both have problems plagued just drastically. The problems start with the story. In fact, what story? What story can we even talk about here? Oh yeah, the story that jumps all over the place. It's not sure what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be based on the movie or not. And if it wants to be based on the movie, fine. And if it doesn't, it's fine either. But at least make the stories compelling and interesting. It doesn't have to be based on the movies, so at least it has to make sense. Like the movie, you're Ethan Hunt. He's not voiced by Tom Cruise, provided by Tom Cruise, because Tom Cruise did not want to fight this in video games. He was against video game violence and all that stuff. But there's nothing wrong with that. Because, you know, I respect Tom Cruise for that. But like the movie, you're Ethan Hunt, an IMF agent, also known as the Impossible Mission Force agent, under the guide of Jim Phelps. The story starts off in an abandoned World War II submarine base in the Arctic, where we learn that Basil Profil is trying to sell medium-range missiles to an enemy country, and Ethan Hunt is joined by John Cutter and Andrew Dowie in their task to stop the terrorists by infiltrating the base and destroying the submarine transporting the missiles. The second mission sort of follows the movie, but not so much at the same time, where Ethan Hunt and other IMF agents penetrate the embassy functions, where they learn Alexander Glitzen has abducted IMF agent Candace Parker and stolen one half of the CIA NOC list Candace was carrying, which name all their non-official covert agents, which is divided into 2 covert halves, and they're trying to decode the 2 because, you know, they only have one half. And they're trying to use a computer to break the code and everything.
I'm Fred.
And Special Agent Robert Barnes was deployed to free Kansas and was caught. And he dies. And now it's up to Ethan Hunt to find Candace and Barnes and copy the list and destroy the computer. And then, of course, at the end of each of the missions, it says, the sector is small about analyze your actions, which will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim, or good luck, Ethan, whatever. And then it follows the main part of the movie for the third mission, where Ethan is afraid and accused of being a mole, leaking information of the IMF. We find out Jim Phelps is the mole. Then you have a bonus story that brings you back to the Ludwig submarine base in the Arctic, and it's tougher this time. And that's basically the storyline for the game. It jumps all over the place. It's almost as bad as Star Wars Rebel Strike Rogue Squadron 3's story, where you had Luke's story and then it just switched right to scenes in the movie. Then you have Wedge's storyline, which is like, it jumps all over the place too, and then you got the main one and all stuff and everything, and just that's how bad the story was. I don't like when stories just jump around like that. It's hard to keep up. I mean, if anyone knows what I'm talking about Star Wars Rebel Strike, go check it out. If you don't, then you'll see the similarities here very clearly. You know, this game came out way before that.
I'll go alone as planned.
I mean, some of the characters are interesting, there's some cool plot twists and more, but the final result is a confusing mess. When we get into the game, look at these graphics. They look horrible. The character models look like they were created by people on crack cocaine. They move around like robots with stretchy arms and the faces just look hideous. The best looking character model is Jim Phelps. When you see him in the cutscenes, he looks like Paul Phoenix from Tekken with white hair and a suit. Ethan Hunt looks like his face got smushed in after a day of plastic surgery. Candace looks like she's possessed. The enemies look blocky and disconnected like deformed puppets on a stick. The mouths don't move either. In fact, they don't even move around much when they're talking. The environments have more detail than them, but they look very low quality with the poor lighting. Also, the frame rate is very sluggish and slow. The pre-rendered cutscenes are the worst. It is as if they took the in-game character models and high-res them and called it a day. And they barely move with their mouths to move and stuff, like I said. There are graphical issues as well. Sometimes with the subtitle option turned on, the last spoken subtitle dialogue after they finish the talking, subtitle stays on until the next voice track plays and more. Animations for characters will randomly shift from one frame to the next. Also, I mentioned the frame rate is awful, and even when there's not a lot going on, it runs like crap. The draw distance is awful. It's like a blue shadowy fog in the distance that casts to make the game running at a decent frame rate, even if it's not even that smooth. The weapon effects look cool, and seeing the death animations when you shoot someone in the head and stuff, and with the dark gun as well, it's funny. The gadgets look cool, mainly the face maker, and seeing Ethan change its disguise is really interesting. Also, when playing the game, we have the putrid sound aspect. And what is putrid in the sound? I swear, every time the characters speaking to you sound like they're on crack cocaine, or cannot speak English at all, or they're trying way too hard to act and have accents to try and do the best at the acting, and it doesn't do so well. Kevin Bayliss does most of the voice acting. He provides voices for Ethan Hunt, Jim Phelps, and the briefing guy in IMF messages that says, "We'll start in 5 seconds." He does a decent job with those 3 characters, but he voices the soldiers, the grunts, and he's terrible here. Like, how can you do fine as the 3 main people, but then you voice these grunts and stuff? They sound awful. I am not sure who voices Candace Parker or any other female characters, but they sound terrible, like reject porn stars that got fired from day one. The music is a mixed bag. It's a little bit better, I'll admit that much. The Mission Impossible theme is here, and it sounds amazingly well done. And yes, the music itself is mostly good, but the problem is it loops constantly. It's like a 10, 15, 30 second loop that loops over and over again with the music. I swear you get tired of hearing it after a while. The weapons sound awful like a potato gun you buy at a dollar store where you shoot a gun where you like put like little potatoes in there and shoot them stuff. Yeah, it's one of those potato guns and stuff. Mission Impossible's gameplay has some interesting ideas, but the end result is a huge mess from top to bottom. What is the gameplay exactly? Well, it is a stealth game. I put it loose because there's not really much stealth to it. I mean, there have been stealth games I've done right. Metal Gear Solid did it really well, and Siphon Filter did it well. But here, it's like you do some stealth by like changing your disguise and stuff like that, and like crouching and stuff like that, you know. But it's just a third-person shooter disguised as a stealth game and stuff with horrible stiff controls and stuff and everything like that. It's basically mainly a third-person shooter. Boring gameplay that can put you to sleep and also drive you insane. Missions take longer than they should because of the absurd objectives where you can get lost and everything like that, and because you keep dying at the same spots over and over because you don't know what the hell you're doing. And some of the missions are super short as well. Like, there are missions that only take like a minute or 2, and boom, you're done. But they end up taking longer because of the frustrating gameplay elements. Sure, like I said, there's some goods to the gameplay. Using the gadgets can be enjoyable, like the face maker and the explosive gum, and using the dart gun and more. And there's some fun things to do in the levels, but they're overshadowed by the negatives. The controls really kill the game. All I can say is, my god, they're so stiff. Even moving in straight lines is more complicated because of this. Hell, the buttons are all swapped too. X jump, square shoot, circle, triangle are your gadget and cancel buttons, and they swap those around too. Sure, you can kind of move the camera around a little bit with the shoulder buttons, but it's just that the camera just doesn't really follow your commands and everything. You will get confused and press the wrong buttons all the time. Jumping is terrible. It's worse because there was a second delay when you hit the button and you can get killed because of this. Combat is a mess. You have your weapons and your fists. I call them the impossible fists because it's hard to punch anything like you're punching the air. The sad thing is, you have to rely on your fists the most because your weapons, you do not get a lot of ammo. And when you do, it's barely enough to keep going. You have to save your ammo. Everyone knows about the warehouse basement level in the Russian embassy in Czech Republic, Prague, where you shoot crates full of toxic gas and then get a gas suit. If you run out of ammo, you are fucked because you can't punch the fist or anything like that, and if you get stuck, you just have to restart the mission. I guess my favorite part is using the face maker because it's cool to disguise yourself, and at the time, this was cutting edge. And there's a sniper section you can disguise yourself as a fireman, and it's pretty good because I liked firemen, so I was always fascinated by firefighters and stuff. But the level I hate the most is the rooftop level. You get caught by the guards, game over for you, and try and avoid the lasers too, because lasers, they're invisible to the naked eye unless you have your infrared scanner on. There are no checkpoints, no extra lives. One life, you die, back to the beginning of the level for you. And even if you're very close to beating the level and you die, back to the beginning. This game does not care, and it isn't friendly at all. There is also a level where you have to slide up and down on a cable to reach a computer and a card reader while avoiding lasers and guards. If you touch the yellow laser, you'll get spotted and die. If you go down too fast, the cable will snap and you die and you get arrested. And the worst part, you have to swing back and forth on the cable to reach the computer and the card. It wouldn't be so difficult, but you have to use the directional pad back and forth to reach the key items. This is frustrating because it's difficult because of the camera. The camera messes you up all the time. Another problem is the NPCs get in the way, and they can bump into you, knock you off a ledge, and die. The enemy AI is unbalanced. They're like super tree stupid or brain for brain smart. And I also should mention that even the NPC AI can be stupid too, because when you're escorting Candace, she's either getting arrested or dying a lot. So you gotta be careful there. The camera is busted so badly, you have no way of moving it whatsoever, and this camera is some of the worst I've ever seen. And I know reviewers have mentioned this, but the back of the CD says interchangeable first person and third person viewpoints. That is a lie. The first person view is a closer zoomed aim mode in third person. Credit goes to James Roll for that. It is the only preferred method of killing the bad guys though, because the weapons are useless without aiming. Sure, you can use the dart gun and stuff and the blowpipe without aiming, but we're talking about like the actual weapons here, not the ones that knock you, that put the person to sleep or so. But the aiming itself is horrible. You cannot move at all except for left and right or aim up and down, and it moves so damn slowly, and then when you're stunned or dazed, it makes it even harder because you can't aim properly. You might as well just quit the game. I did not mention the bugs and glitches that will kill you for no reason whatsoever. It is also a huge bug throughout the game where it will not let you progress. You have to abort the mission. Like, when Ethan gets captured, I tried to escape to the next room. It wouldn't let me. It kept showing the command where it said, press X to climb forward on your communicator device. Hell, this bug at times will force you to restart the whole game. I'm not making this up, people, I'm serious. And also some freezing issues too, where the game will crash. Also, the game is only about 2 hours long, but it takes longer. Also, the game is only about 2 hours long, but it feels like it's longer because of all these problems. Then you can play it again in a new difficulty of possible and impossible, but after that, there's not really any replay value whatsoever. The Nintendo 64 version came out before the PlayStation version, and it has worse issues than this. It has worse controls, so bad gameplay and stuff like that, and everything about that one is a mess. The controls were broken, the sound was so muffled, the gameplay was a chore, and had even more bugs that would crash the game later on more, and also there was no voice acting. And that's pretty much all I can say about Mission Impossible here. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible game, man. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry. Now let's go to our TTBurger pros and cons so we can give this game a decent rating here. For the TTBurger pros here, the first 3D Mission Impossible game. The music is decent. Using the gadgets can be enjoyable. You can disguise yourself with a facemaker, and Ethan Hunt and Jim Phelps make appearances as the main protagonist and antagonist. For the TTBurger cons though, the story is a mess. You can't decide if it wants to be based on the movie or not. Gameplay is abysmal due to a lot of problems and glitches. Horrible graphics with poor lighting in the levels where it's too dark. Ugly looking character models with creepy faces. An uneven frame rate that gets pretty choppy with other graphical issues. The controls are very stiff and delayed, making things very cumbersome. The camera is a nightmare. It never does what you want it to do. Game-breaking bugs and glitches where you'll be forced to quit the mission. Stealth is pretty much non-existent where it's not required unless you're aiming a weapon or so. The gunplay is atrocious where you are forced to use the horrible manual aiming where you can't move back and forth. You only move left and right. The aiming itself is terrible where it moves too slowly. Awful voice acting where the voice actors do not know how to speak English well. Game is short, only about 2 hours long, and the game as a whole is junk impossible. So the final rating I can give this game is a 2 out of 10. I know it's pretty low, but believe me, if I was in the 4 version, it wouldn't be getting a number rating. It'd be getting like a impossibly abysmal out of 10 if it was the Nintendo 64 version. So at least the PlayStation version did some better stuff than the Nintendo 64 version, but it's still a mess all around. That's it for this episode, part 1 of 2, of episode 290. Next up, we're going to look at Mission Impossible Operation Surma for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, Nintendo GameCube, PC, and more. How does this one fare? This is the original story here and stuff. Find out next. August 8th, it's Tony. Peace and out. Have a day and see you all in the next part. Take care, everybody.